Okay, I know it's been a while since you asked me this question. I have to get back to you. The pashtus is the reason why the pasuk doesn't refer to him in this week's parasha as Eliezer, but refers to him only as Eved or as the Ish, is l'chayra like this. I want to base it on a medrash that says not something b'negea Eliezer b'frat, but about shluchim b'chlal. Shluchim, it's the Knesset Shluchim this weekend. But it says by when Yeshua sent Pinchas and Kalev to Eretz Yisrael to spy out the land, when they ended up by Rachav's house, so the Medrash over there talks by Arichos about the godless of how of what their shlichus was. I mean, there's a big kasha over there. There's a big kasha that why did Yeshua send shluchim if he saw how disastrous the shlichus of Moshe Rabbeinu ended? Right. So this was coming from Yeshua. There's many terutzim. The Malbim over there gives four terutzim, but the Medrash says the Gavaldi Gazach. I think it's the Medrash Rabbah at the beginning of Parsha Shlach. I'm going to try to find it now. But the Medrash says that there was nobody who was Makayim Shlichus like these people. What does that mean? So the Medrash says, here, She'elach chavev l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu k'shliach she'mishtaleach la'asas mitzvah v'noisen nafshay kedei sheyitzlach b'shlichusay. There's nothing more beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu than a shliach who sent to do a mitzvah and puts his life on the line kedei to be masliach in the shlichus. Ve'en lecha b'nei adam she'nishtalchu la'asas mitzvah v'noisen nafshay la'asech b'shlichusam ka'oisam shnaim she'shalach Yeshua ben Nun. And there were no people that excelled in their shlichus greater than the people that Yeshua ben Nun sent. Shenemar b'yishlach Yeshua ben Nun v'nashitim shnayim mihayu shon Rabbi Senu l'pinchas v'kalei v'holcha v'nosu nafsha v'slichu v'shlichusam. Now, what was the Shem Shmuel explains over there that the Shem Shmuel explains over there that they went to the house of Rachav Hazoina. She wasn't such a kosher person, but they were willing to forego their entire Olam Haba because Yeshua said so. That's the shliach that's the kind of shlichus that they did. With Eliezer, it's a very similar concept also. That Avram tells him to jump, he jumps. Avram tells him go, he could go. There was very little personal negius over here, and we know that Eliezer was very stark koshish, that he was very very happy to be mishadach with the Beis Shel Avram, but he was from Ein Or Mistabik V'Baruch. He was from the family that was Or, and it wasn't the mishpach of Avram has to be with the bracha, has to have good yichus. Unfortunately, Eliezer did not have good yichus at this time, and so Avram didn't want that. He wanted to have a certain type of chesed that was found in his mishpacha. Unfortunately, the Avadim do not have the concept of chesed, because in order to be a bal chesed, a person has to be independent and not to be dependent on others. If a person is an eved, he's automatically dependent on others. So that would be chisaron in the chesed. So when Eliezer goes to find Rivka over there, so Kum dies that he was able to see a person who responded with a certain independence, and that's why she was schlepping water from the bar, because the Maral speaks out that there's three types of. There's the difference between a bar and a be'er and a mayon. A bar is you fill it up with water. There's nothing. There's no individual. There's nothing individual about it. And then there's a body of water that's constantly bringing forth its own stuff, its own water, and that's independence. That's be'er. That's what's called be'er mayim chayim. Somebody that's completely independent and not being soymich on others. And that's why the Gemara says the Gemara says, that's based on Soinim Atanis Yichya. So that's how the Maral explains the concept of Soinim Atanis Yichya, because if you're accepting presents from other people, so then you're relying on them. We're not supposed to rely on other people. We're supposed to be independent and think for ourselves, act for ourselves, not do it just because everybody else is doing, and doing what's right, standing up for what's right. And also, that's the Gemara says in Brachas and the Yudim and Beis that a person who wants to be yana kelisha, because Elisha was nana the bare minimum, just a table, a chair, a bed, and a lamp. Shmuel Hanavi, on the other hand, if you don't want to be nana, so you could use the anhaga of Shmuel, who brought his own lunch with him wherever he went. He never asked anyone for anything, and we find that's a very big milah by tzaddikim. We find it by Moshe Rabbeinu. The pasuk says that beferish lechamar achem nechem nasasi. I never asked anybody for even the smallest favor. And by Shmuel Hanavi, we find it like the Gemara says, and the Gemara also says that about Shumshan Agibar, that he was a shayfet and he was in a position of power, and he could have had all kinds of avadim and people working for him, but he never even asked somebody to move a stick from one side of the room to the other, because he wanted to do things on his own and not have to rely on other people. The Rebbeinu Shalom should bench us all that we should be zeichet to become Abdei Hashem. Ve'in lecha ben chayrin el misha Isaac b'Torah be well.